What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at a rather interesting little pointing device. This is the MoGo Mouse Bluetooth. It is a PC card, of all things. It actually fits into the PC card slot of an old laptop. Now, this was released around 2006, 2007, somewhere in that time range. So even for that time, PCMCIA was a little bit dated. However, a lot of laptops still had that slot. So this could be stowed away inside the laptop, and then you could pull it out and use it whenever you needed a better pointing device than the built-in trackpad. Now, this little mouse has a party trick up its sleeve. It's actually a transforming mouse. So this little thing in the back here is a kickstand that flips down. This both turns the mouse on and it raises it up into a more ergonomic position so you can use it a little easier than if it was just a flat thing on the table. So you just flip this little guy and it pops up. This is quite a heavy spring-loaded little stand, and it works very well. It raises it up into a nice position, and it moves around pretty reasonably. You probably want to use it on a mouse pad or something of that sort. But yeah, that works pretty well. The whole thing is actually built really nicely. So you have a cast aluminum bottom on it. That's very nice. Top is a silver plastic, and the outer part is black plastic, and there's a couple little stainless steel reinforcing bits along the connector here. Now, there's one glaring issue with buying one of these devices. You can still find them brand new and at very low prices. However, these have a little integrated lithium-ion battery. And we'll just say the years have not been kind to them. This one is completely dead and is basically useless at this point, and it's not exactly a user-serviceable replaceable battery, although we will be doing that today. But for the average user, that's going to be a major issue. I did, however, find a replacement battery online. They are very small. It's not the exact battery. It's very close. This one's a slightly lower capacity and slightly thinner, but I'd rather it be a little smaller and still fit than be too big and not, obviously. These are designed for tiny little quadcopters. So, and on the battery, it actually has a 30-20-30. I believe that is your size of the battery itself. The first two digits, I believe, are the thickness, so 3.0 millimeters thick by 20 millimeters wide by 30 millimeters long, if I understand how that works. This has just been, I haven't actually looked that up, I just kind of guessed based on the measurements of it. The one inside here is a 35-20-30, so 3.5 millimeters thick, 20 millimeters wide, 30 millimeters long, and that seems to line up. It's slightly thicker than this. However, the little battery protection PCB is raised a little bit on here, so it's probably good that I got a slightly thinner one, because, you know, these Chinese batteries probably aren't made to the tightest tolerances, so I'm assuming I might have to do a little bit of squishing of that end part of it there to get it to fit in there. I will also need to reconfigure the cable on here, because the other one just has two wires that come out the end. This has got this little like mini JST plug. We don't need that. It just solders directly onto the board. So yeah, let's crack this thing open. I can show you what the problem is with it internally. It's fairly obvious. You probably won't be able to see it on camera, but if this was smell-o-vision, you would be able to smell it, because it is a bit stanky. So to get these apart, there's just 4 screws down the bottom here. So pretty easy, small Phillips. Pop those out. You have to be very careful not to lose those tiny little screws. Also, there are a few springs in here, so this whole thing kind of shifted when I took the back screws out. You have to be careful with that because these springs may want to go flying. And that there is your heavy, thick, heavy metal piece on the bottom. It appears to be a cast aluminum part. Oop, and there we go. The springs just released the rest of the way. We have our little kickstand that comes out. We have our two little springs. We will just remove those. They just pop right out of there. And then we have our little lens assembly, which we should be able to just tip out. And there we go. Put those safely to the side. Oops. Now we have our board, and you'll notice that battery is basically the exact same size as this one here, so that should fit in there very nicely. So the trickiest part of these is actually getting the PCB out, because there's a bit of adhesive on the back. Also, the PCB is extraordinarily thin, so we also have to get these little metal pieces off, which are glued down. But you should be able to get a fingernail or small spudger type tool in there, pry up on them. They're not really on that well, so they're not that bad to get off. You gotta be careful not to bend them out of shape though. A little bit of wiggling, bit tricky, but I've had them off once already. Trickiest part is getting it up over this little lip here on the end without bending the two little tabs on the back. I've already bent mine slightly. Shouldn't really make a difference, but just get something under there to push it up. Yeah, there's the trick. So to get these off, if it's getting caught on this little lip on the back, you can just get something under it and kind of pull up slightly, and then they pop straight off. Now this top one's a little bit more tricky because it's larger, but same sort of thing. You just have to find an area where you can get some purchase underneath it, where the glue will lift up, and pretty much just peel it straight up and off. There we go. And that one came off much easier actually. So there's the connector exposed. Now we have to just work this circuit board out of here very, very carefully. There's a super thin little spot over here on this side. You have to be careful not to break that. And there is a bit of adhesive on the back of this sensor here holding it in. I think the easiest way to do this, if I recall, was to actually peel this little piece up in the front, which releases the adhesive off of the sensor, and then the whole thing can just drop out. At least that part of it there can. There's also some adhesive on the battery, it appears. Yep. There we go. And it is free of the housing. We can get rid of that now. So there we have it. There's our little 3.7 volt battery. You can see the two little wires coming out of the middle of it. And it is marked plus and minus on the board. So we're going to try to drop our little battery directly in its place here. Which it's going to be a very snug fit, but I think it will fit. It's actually slightly longer, but I think that's just down to the tolerances of manufacturing on here. These wires extend out a little bit further than they really should. So let's get the soldering iron fired up here, and we'll remove the old battery and try to put in the new battery. And it looks like, yeah, sitting this direction, the wires are even going to be in the correct orientation and correct placement. So this should actually be very, very easy. Okay, we got our soldering iron here heating up. We'll give the tip a good clean. I like to use these little copper brass sponge type things. They're kind of like a scrubby pad for cleaning pots or whatever, to clean the tips. They don't thermally shock it, so they seem to do a pretty decent job. Plus they're slightly abrasive, so they help get the get the gunk off there, the oxidation off the tip, just a little bit better than your average wet sponge. So I'm going to lift this battery up just a hair, and we should, hopefully, be able to desolder these existing connections carefully, one after another, not attempting to not lift the pads there. And there we go. There's our old battery out. Now we're going to have to modify our existing one here. So I'm going to have to make a slight incision in this outer capped on tape stuff that's on there. I can probably just use my side cutters and just kind of clip the edge of that a little bit. I'll try to keep it in frame here. A little craft knife would probably be more ideal for this, but another one of those things that say, do as I say, not as I do. Let me grab a different thing. Trusty razor blade to the rescue. Yeah, that's some tough capped on tape. Surprised. Try to do this without damaging the little circuit board in there. There we go. Now we have our little wires exposed coming out of the center. And that should be fine still like that. I can just fold the tape back over there. That'll be okay. It's not really touching anything in that area anyway. And then oh man, that is tight. Hopefully that fits. Might have to squash these tabs down just a hair on the other side of the battery. There's like a couple little metal tabs that fold up onto the circuit board. They protrude a little more than I think they should. I'm just going to apply just a bit of downward pressure to try to flatten those a little bit. Might be better if you guys are looking at doing this to look for a battery that's a little bit better size-wise, or a little better quality one. Maybe not use this exact cell that I'm using. It's very, very close, but oh man, it's, yeah. The very edges of this actual pouch extend a little more than the battery, so don't do this to an actual lithium cell. I'm squishing these tabs down just a hair, trying not to put too much pressure on the inner pouch part. Just kind of folding them over just a little bit. Thankfully, since these are such a low capacity, only 120 milliamp cell, even if it would go completely short circuit, there's not enough energy in them to really, really do too much damage to anything aside from the circuit that you're working on, and maybe your fingers if they get real hot, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of energy stored in there. So I think that's actually fitting pretty well, so you can see that's in between there now. So we're going to have to cut and strip our wires back just a hair. So I'll leave about that much on there. Now I'm going to cut them one at a time so I don't short them together with the clippers. There we go. There's our wires clipped. Now we just need to expose a bit of the insulation on there. It may just pull straight off, but I don't really want to do that. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to, yep, we're just going to have to pull it off of there because there's just not enough to actually strip it properly. Now we have to be very careful not to short these together because those little wires are exposed. I'm going to tin them beforehand just to keep the strands together. At least they appear to be a decent quality stranded copper wire. You can usually tell when it's aluminum because it'll be a lot more flexible. Give it a little dab of solder on each end. There we go. Not perfect, but good enough for me. Okay. Now, we can get this guy back in here. Shift that wire over to that pad, and that one to that pad. Oh, hey, I saw lights come on. That is a good sign. It's trying to do something. It's trying to come back to life. Okay, that's in there. Now to try to reassemble this thing. Still worried the cell might be slightly too large. It's difficult to do this on camera because you can't see what you're doing all that well. Okay, let's see if it'll fit back into its housing. We may have to do a bit more finagling around with that just to see what we can do space-wise, but I think she's gonna fit, actually. Let's see if the bottom part kind of lines up. Yeah, I think we're okay. I think we're just fine. Okay, let's get it back together. So first things first, I'm going to put these little stainless bits back on the back where they belong. They go on a lot easier than they come off, that's for sure. Okay, now we need our lenses in here. So that one goes there, and this one goes like that. Then we need to get our springs in. And then our kickstand. Which we can just kind of pull back until it clicks. And you saw that light flash there. Again, it's powered. It's a good sign. Oop, we lost one of our lenses. Gotta get that back off there. And no, it's still in place. There we go. Let's make sure our kickstand flips down, and it does not. So something has slipped out of place. It is a little tricky to get all these things to stay where they're supposed to be. I see what happened here. This spring came undone on that side. I kind of push them down a little bit, make sure they stay stuck on their little posts where they're supposed to be. Yeah. Quite tricky. I think we got her that time. Alright, let's put the screws back in and we'll test her out. And these screws do just tap straight into plastic, so you got to be very careful not to cross thread them. Little trick if you're new to the game is to back them up just a hair, and then you should feel them kind of drop into the existing threads. And that prevents you from, well, essentially cutting new threads with the screw and stripping out the plastic. And you also do not want to over tighten them. You can usually, you just have to judge it. Something you get with experience doing this a lot is you can feel when you're about to strip something out. And plastic, it'll actually it'll start getting easier, which is never a good thing. Like when you're screwing something into a piece of plastic and then all of a sudden it lets loose. You're like, ah, well, that's gone. Over time, you just develop a bit of a sense for how tight something should be before it's gone too far. So the bit that I'm using here isn't exactly a perfect fit for these screws, so I've got to be careful not to strip the heads out of the screws. There we go. So now when we flip this down, we should get one little blink of red light. And I think it's ready to go. And it still seems to all fit in there nicely, so yeah. Hardly even tell we've been in it. Not bad. Let me go grab the Tough Book and we'll try it out. So, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you've probably realized by now that I have a bit of an obsession with these ultra rugged Tough Books. Now, this is actually my solution for a pointing device, and you might notice these two look like they go together. This is a coincidence. This has nothing to do with the Tough Book, as far as I know. But these Tough Books happen to have, even though they're a modern device, even though this is like a 2015 or 2016 model, inside this flap, underneath my 3-port USB 3 expansion card, we have a PCMCIA card slot. So this lovely little mouse can slip right there. And best of all, stows away inside under a door, so you don't even know it's there. That is pretty cool. So now theoretically, I should be able to open this, and if we open the lid on the Tough Book, a little orange light should come on there. Or a red light, actually. That's a good sign. It was orange before. Red means it's charging. So yeah, that will charge, and then it'll turn green when it's done. So apparently orange, I thought orange meant charging, even though the manual said red. Apparently orange is an error light. So yeah, that makes more sense. So that is charging properly now. So to get it out of there, all you have to do is push the little button on the side, pops straight out. Now we have to pair this thing up with the laptop. So let me flip her around here. Log in. minimize my Amazon order page because y'all don't need to see that. I was looking at some Noctua fans for a upgrade to my rendering build. So let's go ahead and get us some Bluetooth devices. Bluetooth and other device settings. Boy, the screen looks weird through the camera. And then we're going to add a Bluetooth or other device. We're going to flip this down, and then we got to get something in here to push the pin. I'll just use one of these little wires. There's a little thing in the back there you got to press. So let's hit Bluetooth, and it's going to be searching for a device. And push. There are all sorts of things around here. Maybe I have to press and hold. Mouse. I bet that's it. MoGo Mouse BT. There it is. And we are connected, ready to go, and the light came on the bottom. Sweet. And it's jumping all over like a... Oh, man. Alright. So, first impressions. Not good. It does not like my table. Let me grab a mouse pad and see how it works on that. I'm hoping a little better than that nastiness. That's not great. So here's a nice mouse pad. Considerably better. Still not fantastic, but considerably better. Yeah, that's actually perfectly usable. So the mouse is a little weird to hold, but it's really not too bad. It doesn't seem to like light surfaces. So this table here with its weird textured surface and stuff on it doesn't seem to do too well on there. But yeah, the lack of a scroll wheel kind of sucks. So you have to do the old click and drag the bars, and yeah, not fantastic. But hey, compared to this evil little touchpad that's in the Toughbook itself, this thing is light years ahead. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. That seems pretty good. I think what I'm going to end up doing in the media bay on the laptop, I'm going to just grab a cheap $1 mouse pad, slide it in there, kind of fold it in half and slide it in there, and then I can just whip that out along with the mouse whenever I need to do something a little more serious than the touchpad will accommodate for. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little thing. It's a pretty cool little device. I think you can get them on Amazon for around $5 with $5-ish shipping right now, so they probably will still have the same battery issue. They are new open box, or new sealed in box still. However, yeah, even this one here was also sealed. Doesn't matter, the batteries, these were produced in 2007, so the batteries they've just gone in them. So you will need to replace the battery. Although I have proven that that is a totally doable thing. I'm by no means any expert in doing stuff like this, so yeah, it's something you can do. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this and found it somewhat useful, and if you have one of these Toughbooks and are looking for a little bit better pointing device, this might just be your ticket. Alrighty, so let me know what you think down in the comments, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more stuff like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.